Why does my partner seem to change after marriage? Hi, I'm Andrew Holzman. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist from Family Tree Counseling Associates in Carmel, Indiana. I've had experience working with couples, and I wanted to share some of that information with you. Um, I thought it would be an interesting topic because many folks come into counseling and they wonder, why is a person who I dated and who I loved and I cared about, the person who, when we were together early in our relationship, was intimate and close and loving and caring and soft and gentle, and then all of a sudden they become disconnected, or they become angry, or they become, kind of not seeming to care about sex or talking or any kind of closeness in the relationship. So I'd like to start off with a couple of examples. The first example I had a lady come into therapy, and in the dating process, she and her husband to be had a great time. They were close, they were having fun, they were enjoying each other, they spent time together, he spent a lot of money on her, he catered to her every whim. They really enjoyed each other. They got married. After the marriage, he sat her down and he handed her a notebook, and in the notebook was a delineation of all the expenses that he had incurred during their relationship and expected her to chip in for half. She was flabbergasted. She was overwhelmed. She was angry. She was hurt. She didn't expect that the man that she cared about and had been her hero and her lover to all of a sudden kind of pull back in that way and not take care of her and kind of expect something from her that was a big shock. I'll go into that in a minute. Let me give you the second example. The second example was a couple who very, very connected, very emotionally and physically attracted to each other, very loving, a second relationship for both. And they had difficulty. They had difficulty before they came into therapy for many years. They would have very strong fights, knockdown, drag out, angry fights, and then they would break up. They would fight about childcare. They would fight about time together. They would fight about who would call who. They would fight about chores. All the regular things that folks fight about. But these fights got very reactive. These their relationship suffered because of it. They would get very upset with each other and say things they didn't mean, and they'd split up because they couldn't handle it. But they loved each other so much they'd come back together a few weeks or a few days or some time later, and then the cycle would renew itself and they'd fight again. So this had been going on for a couple of years before they came into therapy. At one point, what prompted them coming to therapy actually was the woman got on a dating site during one of their splits, and the man found out about it. And he was very upset about that, as you can understand, and he told his best friends and he told his family, about his anger. And then she found out about that, and she was angry about him kind of betraying the trust in that way. So these two had a very volatile relationship. So let me talk about kind of what's going on here. In the first example, what I didn't tell you was the young woman who came into therapy was a bit of a spender, and she used money to take care of herself. When we have addictions or things that seem like addictions, we're using those substances or those patterns to feel better. So the man in this relationship eventually came into therapy, and he learned to talk to her more directly, because what he had done was worry about the finances and the security and the safety going forward in their relationship. She had married someone who was more, comfortable with being a saver, and also comfortable with being a hero. He wanted to take care of her, and he didn't really want to talk about directly to her his fears and his concerns. She was oblivious to those fears and concerns if he did intimate any kind of pain about that, which he did during the relationship. probably little asides and little ways that he talked about it. She had to work on her addiction, her spending. She was always in debt. She was always, kind of worried about money. That's why he seemed like such a great catch, because he really took care of her. So they came into therapy. They both worked on their piece of what was the problem in the relationship, and it was okay. They worked it out. They're doing well. The second couple, not so happy. They were too reactive. They could see, she especially could see what needed to be done. He was too hurt and too angry about her going on the dating site, and probably about other, and actually not very much so about other things, such as her not sharing, reaching out like he was. He was needy in ways that he could not express without anger, and she was needy in and trying to take care of him, but needy in ways that she didn't talk about either because she was indirect. So they got back together. They tried to work it out, but eventually they split, and they split for good. So what is all this about? I mean, these two examples are maybe extreme, yet they're examples of everyday situations in relationships. Many clients ask, again, why is the person I married so radically different than the person I dated? Men and women both have their concerns about intimacy, and we all have strong security, such as money issues, but maybe have a poor ability to trust and communicate those fears. Um, Intimacy is more than romance and great vacations and taking care of the other person. It's really about, closeness is really about knowing yourself, and knowing that the person you pick is going to help you work on yourself, help you look at what's going on with yourself, because sure as shooting, they're going to touch on issues that are important to you because those issues are out there. You may not know that. They may be raw for you in ways that are, and you've covered them up, but they're there, and you're going to be attracted to that person. So if you have, if you have money issues, if you're a spender, you're going to pick a person who is going to take care of you, hopefully, or maybe a person who's going to spend a lot of money. But you're going to, somehow that issue is going to get played out in the relationship, and those feelings are going to get brought out. And if you don't know how to take care of those feelings directly or talk about them directly, they're going to play out in reactive ways, or the other person's going to shut down, or you're going to shut down and not talk. And so these things build up, and as these things build up and nothing gets resolved, distance gets created. That's, in a sense, the essence of therapy. Therapy is about trying to figure out a way to be aware of what your issues are, be aware of what's going on with you, be aware of what you care about, and communicate that. So, we all have our family of origin issues. We all have issues which, such as shame, being shamed, being abandoned, being stressed in some way. We have needs for security. We have worries about abuse, possibly. We all have ways that we've been hurt in our life. And our marriage is going to help us pay attention to that. And as the kind of dating cycle falls away, where we're letting go of some of those feelings just to keep the person around and have fun, then those things build up. Those things, if I have an abandonment issue and my wife is working all the time or spending all the time with the kids, then that's going to get brought up. Of course, before the marriage, there were no kids, and work wasn't as important because we were spending time together. And if those feelings get brought up, and I don't know how to talk about them or even be aware of them, then the marriage is going to be disconnected. Communication is going to break down. So therapy, in this sense, is about being aware of this issue, whatever it is, whatever your family of origin issue is, and being able to talk about it. And so, like in the first example, that couple, even though that was a pretty extreme example where the man handed her a notebook and she was devastated, they were able to talk about it because they cared about each other. In the second example, they cared about each other deeply. And maybe there was just too much water under the bridge. Maybe there was just too much reactivity, and if they were more committed to working on it, it might have been something that could have worked out. And maybe that would have been great for them, but maybe they were in the wrong time to be able to do that. It was hard because they loved each other so much. And when a couple loves each other so much, it seems it should transcend that, but it doesn't, because we have our family issues, we have our issues that are important to us, and sometimes we expect the other person to know them psychically. They can't. That's the essence of this, is we have to figure that out and be able to talk about this. So intimacy is really important, but intimacy with yourself is the key. Thank you for listening. Again, I'm Andy Holzman of Family Tree Counseling Associates. My phone number is 317-457-8668. And my email is aholzman2@comcast.net. Thank you very much.